right, my dears, it is time for another episode of Keeping Kith. Today is February 1st. I waited to record till today because this is sort of a holiday in that it is halfway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. So we are officially halfway through the winter, astronomically anyway. Depending on where you live, that may not be quite the case. So where we are here out on the western plains, we can expect winter weather into May. We've had snow and snowstorms like right up till the very end of May. While from a planetary perspective, we are halfway through winter. Probably we aren't actually halfway through in terms of when we can expect winter weather, but it's kind of crazy. So we had last week just bitter cold. I think that we had a night where it was in the negative 20s real temperature, and not with wind chill. And then we've been having just a lot of wind lately, so just crazy nights of wind. In fact, the night before last, it was one of the nights where it's just shrieking and howling, and just the house shakes, the window panes shake, and it is very hard to sleep through, because it's really loud, and there is some part of my brain that senses that wind blowing as danger and just has a hard time shutting off. So that was last week, and then now we are experiencing one of the absolute wonders of the northern plains, which is a thaw. So yesterday was actually still really windy, but the air temperature was in the 40s, and today I don't know if we're up to 40 degrees yet, but we're probably pretty close, and it's not nearly as windy, and the sun is out, so it feels amazing. I left my kids to come out and record this, and they were playing in the yard in sweatshirts, and just feeling like the weight of the world had been lifted, because they didn't have to have all their heavy snow clothes on to be outside. So it really does, when you've been through, especially like very deep cold like we just went through, the thaw, even when it's temperatures that aren't, I guess, that warm, it sure feels warm. and pretty magical. My daughter was out investigating things that were starting to thaw, so places where there had been ice and that was kind of turning to water, which I remember doing as a kid too, that feeling of when the ice starts to recede and suddenly, I don't know, there's something pretty cool and exciting about that the smell of dirt, again, smelling that smell of dirt and mud again after not smelling it for a while, and just the way things start to feel like they're moving is pretty exciting, after they've been frozen solid. So if you've been listening along now, we have had several episodes at this point. If you've been listening along or watching, the last few episodes, I've sort of had something intentional. Like we kept Kith with, we went out, or I tried to take you to visit the horses. That didn't go great, because then we had like a little mini blizzard while I was trying to do that one. And then last week we went and visited the sheep. But this week I just figured, again, because we are sort of at this interesting moment, this tipping point between the darkest night and the equinox, when the day and night will be equal. So if you like to think about things sort of geometrically, that we are sort of passing this tipping point of being closer to balance as opposed to closer to the night being significantly longer than the day. Which, sort of back to some of the idea behind keeping Kith and what I hope will be useful about it. You can hear my little snorty dog. I have a dog she's half French Bulldog, half Boston Terrier, 100% baby pig. Because when she gets excited, she snorts. It's like her. When I first got her, I didn't know what that sound meant, and I used to think, like, oh, she's upset or she's choking or what's happening. But no, it's just kind of what she does when she is excited. She was just out running around, seeing what there was to see. And now she's come back to tell me about it in snorts. But yeah, part of what I sort of hoped we could take from this time together of keeping Kith is, of course, as I've said before, it's the idea of meeting your neighbors who may be human, but they may not be human, the neighbors that you are keeping Kith with. And I do actually think of the weather like a neighbor. In fact, sometimes I feel like it's the neighbor that influences my day. Well, not even I think, it's just true. The weather probably has more impact on my daily life than any other neighbor I have. So again, a thaw feels pretty revelatory. But I would also sort of like where the planet is in its journey, in its yearly journey, is also pretty impactful. And before I moved to a rural place, and so much of my work revolved around being outdoors, I was still being impacted. I just didn't have as much of an awareness. So obviously everybody knows if they live in a northern place in the winter time, that the days are going to be very short. The nights will come early, and it does change the way you do things. Whether you're like working in an office building or in some place where you have a lot of artificial light. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as it was. Before electricity was easy to access. And if your work doesn't revolve around the outdoors, then your schedule doesn't necessarily have to change, which again is one of the interesting things about working in agriculture. Oh, my little dog's back. When you work in agriculture, it's just wild. It's like on those long days in the summer and the spring, you can get a lot done. In the winter, you can't. I mean, it gets dark, and maybe you're going to run out to the barn or whatever, but obviously you're just not going to be working as hard. So your body follows the rhythms of the seasons in a different way. And I have found that to be so absolutely wonderful. My body just really likes seasonal work, it turns out, which I would never have known if I hadn't had the opportunity to do work that is more seasonal in nature. But I think it's still true, again, even if you don't do seasonal work, you're experiencing it in ways that you maybe don't even realize. So those lengthening days are just, they are kind of like welcoming in a sense of abundance that your body is noticing, even if it doesn't, again, necessarily correlate to like your daily schedule. But that feeling of having just that little bit more light every evening and every morning, it does lead to a feeling that's more expansive, I think. And it opens you to possibility as well. So on this day, February 1st, as we are sort of starting that, or as we've now reached the point where the light is returning in a way that we are closer to the longest day than we are to the longest night. Our bodies are getting closer to that time of the year. There's a lot of different cultures that sort of celebrate this, again, as I said, as kind of a holiday that is related to starting to think about that awakening to the sort of the things you dreamed about in the darkest part of the year, the things that were happening, but in the sort of the stillness of your heart or mind, or the stillness of the frozen earth. Now those things are starting to awaken. And I was just telling my husband, when we have a thaw like this, it's just almost impossible for me to believe that we aren't going to be able to be running out to the garden in another week or two. It just feels like, oh, it's spring spring is coming, it's right around the corner. And it's always hard because it's not right around the corner for us. I'm still at least a month out from getting serious about even starting seeds, planting any seedlings indoors, because I have far too many times started doing that in February and then regretted it because they were ready to go in the ground long before the ground was ready to receive them. But now I try to think about when I get that spring feeling during a thaw, and it feels like it's just any second it's going to be spring. I just try to hold that feeling, again, of possibility. It's not spring yet. And in the case of those of us living in places pretty far north, it's not even really all that close to spring. But it will be spring. And that what's awakening in our bodies, that is another version of keeping Kith. So wherever you are, if you happen to live like me in a place that's very cold and will continue to be cold for quite some time, then I am coming to you in solidarity for both the difficulties and challenges of living through long winters, and also the beauty of having this much time to keep Kith with cold, and how that is, I think it does teach us a kind of patience and a deep gratitude for even the little pockets of warmth we do get in the form of thaws. And if you happen to live in a place that doesn't have such long winters, or maybe you're even in the southern hemisphere and you are beginning the opposite journey right now, whatever the case may be, as always, I'll just invite you to step outside your own door and see who might be there that wants to keep Kith with you. Whether it is a human neighbor, or a bird that has a story to tell, or a tree that the wind is shaking the branches of and also maybe singing you a little lullaby. Or maybe it's the clouds passing over your head. But let yourself say hello, take a minute to enjoy their company. Until I see you again, be well.